All right. Thank you all for coming out tonight. My name is Austin Wallen. This is the San Francisco Agile Marketing Meetup. Before we have two great speakers tonight that we're really excited about. Obviously, you are too. You wouldn't have shown up. Thanks for coming. Before we get started, we're going to do a couple little announcements. The first of which is giving a shout out to our sponsors. We have four great sponsors for these events. The first being Subtraction Capital and Paul Willard, who helps organize the events. Say hi to Paul. A lot of you know Paul. We also are really excited to have Accel Partners be our official beverage sponsor. So thank you to Accel. Is anyone from Accel here tonight? Maybe? No? Okay. Artist Ventures is our pizza sponsor. And do you want to say anything? Yeah, eat more pizza. So the important thing I want to make clear to everyone is that if you have a really cool marketing company and you are seed stage A, B, C, D, or probably even E round, come talk to either the artists or Accel people or me or Paul, and maybe we'll get an awesome company funded through the meetup, which would be really cool. I know Paul's really excited that I just solicited him for pitches. And lastly, I want to really especially thank Zendesk, who provided us this awesome space that you're all in right now. And do you want to come say a few words?
I'll be fast. Thank you. First of all, we are excited to welcome all of you to our headquarters. Happy to host the meetup. And I head content marketing. I'm Monica Norton, content marketing at Zendesk. And because that is on the agenda tonight as our topic, I want to let all of you know that we are hiring in content marketing at Zendesk. So if anyone is interested in talking about content marketing in general or is looking for a position in the Bay Area, come find me after the presentation. So thank you and enjoy and have fun. Thanks.
All right, so this will be the second straight month we're doing our new format of having the lightning talk to warm the crowd up before the real talk, so that you're all lively for the main speaker. And we have a special guest tonight, Kristen Johnson, who is the Agile coach at Twitter and a colleague of one of our organizers, Nick Muldoon. And she's in town for 2 weeks from Boston, and we were lucky enough to have her come give us an introduction to retrospectives. And without further ado, I'll turn it over.
I feel like, hello, hey. Feel a bit like the hype woman, you know, gotta get that going on. So yeah, I've been at Twitter for the past year and a half as an Agile coach out of Boston. And before that, I was at Breakcove. Probably folks, marketers know that's an online video platform. So I was there for 3 years as an Agile coach as well. So coming from a little bit of a background, excited to be here. Missing the snow in Boston was amazing. Missing like the Patriots Super Bowl parade, not as amazing, but that's okay. You win some, you lose some, right? So I'm here to give kind of an intro to retrospectives, kind of the why, what, where, and how of them for folks that have done them, maybe haven't done them before. So with that, I'll get right into it. So retrospectives are a core part of Agile, right? It's something about continuous improvement, right? If we go straight to the definition, looking back on past events or situations. So kind of the idea is we work at these software companies and it's kind of a lot of hustle and bustle and we're always going kind of on a hamster wheel. This is a chance for us to take a step back, kind of stop, pump the brakes a little bit and look up and reflect on how things are going, look at the past and see what we can learn from it. What can we learn from that? What do we want to start doing, stop doing? What are some things that we want to change? How can we get better? So thinking about that as a competitive advantage rather than just like the way we work is just the way we work and it's no big deal, but looking at it as how can we make that better and have it be a competitive advantage over other competitors that we have in the space. So that's what retrospecting is. And it kind of can apply to anything. It doesn't have to be software, right? It could be you are running a little league and you want to try to make that better, having a continuous improvement model there, or your family, right? It can kind of apply. So kind of get outside the box a little bit when you think about this. So that's a what. Now thinking a little bit about why we do retrospectives. So if we think a lot of the stuff that comes from Agile and Lean, and we think about the Lean house, it has two major pillars, and one is just respect for people, everyone that we have around us, and then also another major one is continuous improvement. And retrospective just fits into that and gives us a natural cadence for examining the way that we work. And you can see behind here on the slides, I have some Japanese characters, and that's for Kaizen. And so you've probably heard that before, but Kaizen means Kai meaning change and Zen meaning good. So kind of good change. What change can we have and not be static? So that's what we have there. So why do we do it really? So we look for things, ways to eliminate waste in the way that we work. So waste could be handoffs that we do. Waste could be when we're waiting around for something to happen and we're just sitting on our hands. So taking a second to examine ways that we can be more efficient, really. Also, it kind of is a way to, it's not just, it taps into the collective knowledge of the group, right? Like everyone that's working on something has a voice, can think about how to get better rather than it coming straight from management. So like ways to get better comes from management, it comes from every single layer of the organization. And that's kind of one of the major things with Lean and the Toyota way and whatnot that we've pulled from manufacturing is this idea of like everyone on the line, everyone from management has good ideas about ways to improve. So that's a major piece of it. And the last thing is it kind of teaches people in the organization to experiment with the way that they work and kind of use the same idea that we bring to our product. We're constantly looking for ways to improve our product. We want to constantly look for ways to improve the way that we work as well. So we're kind of taking that same scientific method approach and trying things out to the way that we work. So when do we want to do them? So there's no prescriptive way to do retrospectives. It can be, a lot of times teams will have it on a cadence just so that they get into this regular rhythm of doing it, something that's on the calendar, they know it's coming up. So that could be weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever works for your group. Usually the more often, the better. I'd bias to sooner rather than later. Also, you don't need to always wait. A lot of times the anti-pattern that comes with doing it on a cadence is sometimes you wait and you hold on to the things that need to change rather than talking about them in the moment. So you definitely want to think about a continuous improvement model that embraces stop and fix and make things better now. So that's why I have also some ad hoc things. Like maybe you did a big product launch and you want to see how that went. So that's a time to kind of retrospect and look back and inspect and adapt. Maybe you had a big campaign and how did that go? Is it working the way you want? What can we be doing better? Also, I put an incident. That's usually like maybe something happened for a software team in production, or it could be anything. If something didn't go well, it's a great chance to learn and kind of seeing that as a learning opportunity rather than a blame game. It's definitely like a chance. What can we learn from this situation? That's kind of the when for retrospecting. So where? That's kind of a funny question. But what I like to do, so this is one of the teams I work with in Boston. And when we retrospect, we try to make it feel different than other meetings. A lot of times you'll be in a meeting in a conference room and you have like everyone's groans and staring at the board and whatnot. So we try to make it feel a little bit different. So like no technology, in kind of a comfy, cozy area to make it feel a little bit more like, hey, we want to be introspective at this moment. We're not trying to do other things. So obviously the no laptop rule is super important. Let's be present and focus on ways to get better. Also just being a little bit innovative. So maybe doing it over lunch, getting out of the office and going out somewhere and doing it. It could be anything. So just making it feel different than all the normal meetings that folks have that maybe they already associate with kind of boring or whatnot. So try to make it feel different. So you can see in this one, for this team, we have retrospectives every Friday after they do kind of a sprint demo. They demo the work that they've done. And at that point, they stop and we just all kind of get together in the team area and talk about, we answer a few questions, which is a good way to format retrospectives. So we say, hey, did we achieve the goal that we set out to do this week? What's slowing us down? What did we learn? And then is there anything that we want to experiment with? And is there anything we want to think about over the weekend to kind of let marinate so we can hit the ground running on Monday? So we have these set questions that those set questions make it easy to like kind of run through the retrospective pretty quickly. So the next thing is about how. Lots of different ways to do it. No set one is perfect. I have pictures from two of my favorite ways to do it. The easy, simple one we do a lot of times is just stop, start, keep. So what do we want to stop doing? Something that we think like, that's a lot of times thinking about like, what is the waste in our system? What do we want to just flat out stop doing? Starting is like more about opportunities. Like what opportunities are we not seeing? What can we be doing differently? And then keeping it's kind of a fun one. I think a lot of times it's about what do we want to double down on? What do we want to like kind of like say, hey, this is working really well. Maybe we're implicitly, let's be explicit about it. Like, what do we want to do? What do we want to make sure we keep doing as we move forward in time? So that's that one. And if you look up at the top picture, I won't go into it because it's a little bit more of a detailed one, but it's called De Bono's 6 Thinking Hats. If you look that one up, it's an awesome one. And that's one that I do a lot of times if we do a big launch, a big product launch or something like that, or like with a big group. That's a really good one. So kind of look into the 6 Thinking Hats is an awesome one. But things to keep in mind no matter what format you use to keep it original. But the things that you want to make sure you do is that you want to make sure you set the stage for the group in the room so that you say, hey, we're retroing on this period of time or on this launch and kind of set the stage, or we're using this format. Just make sure that everyone's on the same page before you get started. The next is that you want to gather data. You kind of want to cast a wide net and say, hey, what happened? And be kind of data collectors. What are all the things? Let's see all this, the things that happened in this time period. And then after that, after you've done all that kind of data collection, hearing from everyone in the room, hearing all the voices, you want to say, hey, what insights can we gather from this? Can we take a step back and see patterns that have arisen? Like maybe there's a systemic thing happening that we've seen over the past couple of months that we want to fix. So kind of saying, okay, here's all the data. What patterns do we see here? After that, another really important thing is that a lot of times in these meetings, there's a lot of talking that happens and it feels like cathartic. It feels good to talk about the way things went, but it's even better if we can then take action on it. So being able to convert all those awesome things that folks brought up into actual things that we're going to do. And one thing that I found very helpful is instead of doing all the things, because let's say as a team, you guys come up with 10 things that we could be doing better. A lot of times keep it simple. Like what's the 1 or 2 things that we think are super important that we want to try, that we want to experiment with, that we want to change? And then also who's going to kind of shepherd that? We don't say like who's going to own that, but who's going to shepherd that? And it doesn't mean when you put your name and you volunteer to be the shepherd for something that you're going to be the one to do it, but that means that you're the one that's going to help make it happen. You're the one that's going to say, hey, get a group together to make something happen. So that's super important to seeing things happen. The next one I have on here is spreading knowledge laterally. And this is if you're part of a bigger organization. A lot of times on a team, you come up with some really awesome things, some great insights, things that you want to try out, things that you realized. And there's other parts of your organization, let's say you're many teams all working on the same product, let's say. You can learn from each other. A lot of times on our teams, we'll read each other. We'll send out notes on how the retro went for a particular launch. And then another team will go, oh, did you see what they did? That sounds like that could work for us. Why don't we try that as well? So sometimes it helps with like the reinventing of the wheel. So sharing that knowledge across the organization and having that transparency helps everyone kind of level up. And the next is, it's really great to choose things that you want to try and ways to get better. But the idea is revisit it. Did it work out well? And kind of framing it as an experiment with the folks that you're working with. Okay, let's try this. A lot of times that helps break down some of the barriers because a lot of times people kind of feel good with the way things are going and they don't want to try something new. But like, hey, framing it as an experiment, and when we meet again in a month, we'll see, did that experiment fail or did it pass? Are we happy with the way it's working? And feeling okay with being able to say, nope, that didn't work for us. We thought it was going to do something, it didn't help us, and then just scrapping it. So I think that a lot of times helps with the barrier to trying new things is framing it as an experiment. A few more things, and these are kind of the tips that I would say about retrospectives in general, is it's really helpful to have someone that's the facilitator in the room, preferably someone that's not like the nitty-gritty person doing all of the work, someone so that everyone can actively participate. Because if you're kind of wearing the facilitator hat and also like a major core member of a team, it's a lot of times really hard to like participate as well. So having someone that can kind of really facilitate the meeting is really helpful. Safety. So safety zone, safety dance, whatever you want to call it. A lot of times before I start facilitating a retrospective, I remind everyone that this is a safe zone. And the reason I do that, it sounds hokey, but to remind people that we have to have, it has to be a safe zone. You have to be able to say, respectfully, say whatever you're thinking so that we can get to some like real meaningful insights. Because if we don't have that safety, we don't have the trust in the room, we don't have the vulnerability to say what you're really thinking, even if it might sound silly or it might be a little, whatever the case may be, to have that so that we can have some real deep insights and then thus meaningful change. So super important to kind of remind the group that you're working with, hey, this is a safe zone, whatever you're thinking, let's hear it. No idea is a bad idea. Also, another thing is just be prepared. If, let's say, you're the facilitator for the meeting, a lot of times you're running from one thing to the next, and you get to the room like, what are we doing? What's happening? But if you are the facilitator for a meeting like this, it's super important to think through what format are we using? What time period, or what are we retroing on? How can I help the team be successful? So kind of making sure that you come in prepared, ready to go. Another thing I put on here was hiring Agile learners. And it's funny, we're talking about Agile, and this is just a concept that's not part of the Agile lean software concept. Just being an Agile learner is someone that's willing to learn. So you can see that in someone that's constantly reading books, trying to find ways to get better as part of their life. They're always looking that way. So if at all possible, when you're hiring, I think look for people that are thinking that they're eager to find ways to get better for themselves. And those are the type of people you want to be working with. Those are the type of people that are going to make your organization amazing and continuously getting better. The other thing to think about is making sure you focus on the how rather than the what. It can be really easy during retrospectives to be thinking, here's the list of things we did, and kind of just more enumerating all the stuff. But really we want to that's great, but we really want to be focusing and shifting more to like, how are we working? How are we working as a team? How are things going? Which can be hard. A lot of times meetings are all about the what. This meeting is more about the how. So try to keep that in the back of your mind. And the last thing which I mentioned earlier, is making sure that you take action. That's the biggest thing. Try things, experiment with it. Make it easy for folks to feel like that's the way to do things. So that's what I have on retrospectives. If anyone has any questions, make sure to find me afterwards. Otherwise, thank you.